Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the journey back from domestic violence. I'm your girl, author Erica, and today I have my special guest, Dani, today with me. She's gonna talk. She's gonna share her story with us. And Dani, you can have the flow. Take it to where you want to go at. Open, judge-free zone. If you need to cut, if you need to say a bad word, say a bad word. We say it all over here, so you can take the floor.
All right, thank you. This is my first uh, time either being on a podcast or being interviewed. I started a blog about, I guess, not quite a year ago, about in August, I want to say, of 2020. And so that started as just as a therapy for me. Um, and it's picking up the pieces of your broken life. Sorry. Um, and in there, I talk about all of my, the things that went on with me and my relationship. So I was with my ex for 18 years, married for almost 16. And in that time, you know, um, he was very narcissistic in a lot of ways. And it just built. We started dating so young. I think I was 16 when we started dating. So I didn't even really realize what abuse was, what a good relationship was, what a healthy relationship was. My parents had a great relationship, but I would twist some of the things that he did, the controlling, and I would turn that into, oh, he just really cares about me. He wants the best for me. He wants me to
Mhm.
be safe. He wants me to be close, and that type of thing. So there was a lot of warning signs early on saying that, this was not a great relationship for me to be in. And I failed to recognize those. And so as the years went on, we ended up getting pregnant fairly young. I had my first child when I was 19, and we did get engaged and get married and stuff. And I remember walking into getting on the day I was getting married, be the happiest day of your life, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I don't want to be here. I know this isn't where I should be, right?
Mhm.
But I went through with it because we had a child, and that's what I thought that we should do. And already, like, I want to say before we got pregnant, I don't know that a lot of the abuse had started. There was something in the pregnancy that really seemed to trigger him. That's really when um, he started to change.
Mhm.
Um, and then once my son was born, it was always, I'm cheating on him. I'm I'm out to get him. All I want to do is leave him. It's all,
Mhm.
all I want is money. It was all this. And as time went by, it actually wasn't long after that he raped me.
Wow.
Um, and so that was my first physical, sexual violence that I had encountered. And yeah, it was pretty traumatic. It took me a lot of
Mhm.
years to get over that. And I was not right. You know, it was awful, and then being a mother and you're with the
Mhm.
man that raped you, it was hard to stay there. And when I tried to, talk to him about it, how I felt and everything, it didn't happen. It didn't occur. It wasn't like that. He just shut it down. And so then the way they do it, it becomes, I actually believe that I was wrong in this, that, I missed
Mhm.
something, that it was my fault, that, I did give consent, and then when I was laying there crying, that was all wrong. I really did believe that I was in the
You.
wrong for it.
Mhm.
And so as time went on, we had three more children, and I always wanted something more for me, and so I would, over time, I would begin to, I wanted a job, I wanted, and anytime I wanted to better myself in any sort of way, I was just using it to leave him. I was
To get away. Mhm.
to get away, yeah, and it it just became although it became a process, although those times it wasn't as bad until We still live pretty close to our family. It really seemed to blow up when we moved away from our family, moved about 3 hours away, and we didn't know anyone. And that is really when things started to change. Like I really started to question when he was on work,
Mhm.
who was he with? Why were these numbers on his phone? Why were these, women asking him to come to different things? I really started to question the cheating, but I never really said anything. I just,
Yeah.
because it was all in my mind. I was just a jealous person, and I,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm just jealous. I need to deal with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that started, and then I actually did get a job, and that really did trigger him.
Wow.
Um, it took him a lot of years to kind of accept that, right? Like he didn't want to help with the kids, he wouldn't help with suppers, he wouldn't help with
Make it
cleaning.
hard for you.
I just, yeah, I wanted to. I decided that I needed to do this, so I needed to make sure that I did everything else. He did it whatever he could to sabotage it.
Yes.
Same thing as I wanted to finish my education because I was 19 when I had a child, and I
Mm-hmm.
really wanted, a career.
Right.
And uh, yeah, anytime it was a sabotaging, I was selfish for trying to
Get a
become
job.
something I was, and all I really wanted to do was, have an education and job and be a team. I thought that if I could show him that I could do all these things and be a mother, that he would, respect me and treat me as an equal. But that never happened.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so um, I don't know. I guess in my blog I talk a little bit more specifically about lots of
Yes.
these issues. There's a lot of I do think he came from I think he had quite a bit of abuse as a child. I don't know what, he seems to have really blocked his childhood out. Like it,
Wow.
it's kind of interesting the odd time that I got him to talk about it, he really doesn't remember anything. So it really makes me wonder what happened in his childhood.
It might have was a really bad, because sometimes they be abused growing up themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, for sure. And so there was just nothing that I could do that ever really, uh that I could get him to a better place, right? And I took that responsibility on of trying to always, not trigger him, get to the better place. When
Mm-hmm.
he was upset, I took on the responsibility of trying to calm him down, to soothe him, to help him through that situation. He almost had no responsibility in looking after his own emotions. I took that all on myself. Um, and I honestly thought that was a relationship, that was a teamwork relationship, but
Right.
it's not, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So after years, he had bad anxiety and depression, and all of the stress of kind of dealing with the kids and the job and him in general. It really took a toll on me. It was so weird. I would have days where like my legs wouldn't work. Like I'd be walking and it felt like they would give out, my
Wow.
arms were numb, my face was numb. It was like a confusion, like just a cloud that I couldn't see
Get
past.
shook off. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was, I kept going to the doctors, and, they would tell me it's stress. And it's like, well, I'm not stressed. Like, I have a husband, I have 4 kids, I have a job, like, I'm not suffering. Why is this stress, right? Like I didn't recognize the effect that a lot of this was having on me, and kept going. I was getting tested for MS, for lupus, for, stomach issues, just crazy. And it continued and it continued and it continued. And the, the things that he put on me for being responsible for him
Mm-hmm.
always, it just got worse. And as that got worse, now that I'm away from it, I can see how what he placed on me, and everything was my fault. How I can see the relationship now between that and my physical. I moved away from him, and I actually moved. 3 hours away.
Okay.
Think I felt like I would be, if I would have stayed where he was, I feel like I probably would have been dead. Like he was unraveling and escalating that fast that
Wow.
I really felt that my life was in danger for a period of time. And so, but it wasn't long after I got away from him that all of those physical ailments that I had, they completely disappeared.
Wow.
Yeah, so it just really shows, like the amount of stress, on a body, what it does.
Yep.
Um, and I was just so, I felt like I was probably going to blow up. Like I kept pushing it down. Like I just need to be better. I just need to help him through this, and then things will be okay,
Be
right?
better.
Like
Yes.
I just and I kept doing that. But where I was just pushing everything down that I needed, I wanted, I felt, I was pushing all of my needs away. And then trying to look after the kids, and I missed so many signs that he was not treating them great. And I mean, don't he never hit them or sexually abused
Right.
them or anything like that I know of, but the emotional abuse of my
Was
daughters,
emotional.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was definitely present, and I missed that for sure, and that really upsets me. So that's a process to get through. When you're
Right.
so deep in survival mode,
Mm-hmm.
you are going to miss all of these things. So
Right. You're gonna miss them. Yep. And sometimes we
mhm.
blame ourselves for those times, but we so busy trying to be in survival mode that we not looking at all those other things. We just trying to figure out how to make him feel better, and everything will be good.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly.
So during your time when you was in your relationship, like you said, y'all started off really young. And when y'all first started dating, you noticed anything? Was he different then, or he was just a real nice guy that I just met?
Um, no, there were definitely times that, like, even early on, I was scared of his anger. Um,
Wow.
but I always I felt, and I, looking back, I can't really remember if I put that on me or if he said things to make me feel that way. But I felt like when he got angry with me that I deserved it, that I had stepped out of line, or I had made
Right.
him, I done something to make him feel jealous or something like that.
Mhm.
I really felt like it was my fault. So even though that was a sign early on, I I I brushed it off.
And just went on.
Yeah.
So as you know, as we all know, in relationships, we have arguments, we have disagreement. Did y'all used to have a lot of disagreement, or it was just more of just him just doing the physical things?
Um, you know what? Honestly, early on in the relationship, we did have a lot of agreements or disagreements, and they could be quite volatile.
Mhm.
And then the one day I remember my son would have been about a year and a half old, and I remember him kind of hiding when we were fighting. And then
Wow.
from that day on, I decided that I was never going to have a fight like that again. And so it was almost, I did everything to not have a fight, right? So even
Mhm.
if I didn't want to, I just, I had no boundaries. If I, disagreed with something, it was, I just went along with it because I thought that was the
Trigger
best
a
thing to
fight.
do. So my son did not have to see, an argument or anything like that. So
So it was mostly protecting the kids and just making him feeling comfortable that we in a
yeah.
good shape.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I did literally everything I could to make him feel comfortable and safe, and it didn't really matter what effect it had on me. I just didn't want to have that fight.
At all. So in a relationship, besides that first incident you talked about, y'all, he rape you. Was it any other incidents you had in before that?
No, not before that, I wouldn't say.
After?
No, after that there was some. That one time was the absolute worst.
Okay.
But there was lots of times where I would wake up and his his hands were, down my pants, or he was on top of me, or, things like that. And I was, there's lots of, you know, things that I didn't want, but, his philosophy was we're married.
And that
That's
and you my
right.
property.
That's right, yeah. And when I was pregnant, he would talk about, things like pushing me down the stairs. Um, and that was actually a joke that he would share with his family, and they actually thought it was funny. He would never say things like that around my family, but
But
around his, that was a joke that they, why don't they just push me down the stairs and end the pregnancy, and that type of stuff. And I never said anything, but I actually believe that it could happen because when we would walk anywhere, I always walked behind him,
because
just,
you were scared he was gonna push you.
yeah. And, and,
Because
and you,
he hasn't said this so many times, so it was already in your
it was
mind
in
that
my head. Yeah.
that he will push me if I walk in front of him.
Yeah.
So family wise, as far as your family, did they notice that you was in a domestic violence relationship, or it was something that you tried to protect from the family?
I think they see it now. But no, at the time they didn't. They saw that I was miserable. They
Okay.
saw that I was lashing out. So lots of times before we would see my family, he would, poke and prod me, and so I was just miserable by the time we got to any location. So
Wow.
then he could, sit back and be like, "Well, look at her, she's crazy." Um, and or I would just stay silent and I wouldn't say a thing. And so no, like my family, like my mom actually had told me one time she thought that it was me, like I was so angry, and she was like, "What do you have to be so angry about?" Because she never saw him do the things leading up to that. But since I've left, she's noticed a huge change in me, and she's mentioned that she should have saw it.
Right.
Apparently, I don't really remember, but she had said that there had been different times where I would start to tell her things, and then I would stop and I would just say, "Oh, you won't understand."
Hmm.
And she regrets not asking me, why I stopped, why I thought she wouldn't understand, you know. So I would start to tell her, but then I just would back right off. That was something that no one's ever going to believe you. That
Right,
was
because you
something that,
married.
yeah, yeah. No one's ever going to believe you. I mean, like he had a good job, right? So financially, he's done well with his life. Um, so that was why people would never believe what I had to say, because he provided for his family, and so that made him a good person.
Right. So in y'all relationship, do you think it was more of physical abuse or mental abuse? Or it was a little bit of both?
Honestly, I would say it's just all that mental abuse. Uh, it was not, the physical some, but honestly, I'd rather take that over the mind games all the time. Like it felt like you're just spinning in circles all the time. You didn't know
Hmm.
what was up or down or sideways. And this day it would be okay, and then the next day if you did the same thing, it wasn't. You're walking on eggshells, and not only did I feel it, now that we've moved, my kids have talked about, they've opened up about how they felt that same eggshell feeling, but um, they never talked about it when we were there. And my one daughter actually thought that it was normal.
Well,
Um, yeah, she's like, I had all these feelings about dad. And she's like, I didn't realize that they weren't normal until we
mm,
left, and I don't have those feelings right around other people.
wow. And it's just
Mhm.
amazing. We don't know. We try to feel like the children don't know, but in so many ways, in their own little way, they understand more than what we do. You know,
Oh,
so how does it like when you and your kids sit down and y'all talking? When they was able to finally sit down and have that conversation with you to let you know, well, mom, we was feeling this, or we know this was going on. How did that make you feel at that moment when your kids was telling you that?
yeah, that's actually the part that makes me a little bit emotional. So my oldest daughter, it was been about a month after we had left, And we were driving somewhere, it was just me and her in the car, and she said, Mom, I'm so glad we left. And I was like, well, I was like, I'm glad to, I'm glad to hear that,
Right.
I apologize. I'm like, things are so shitty right now. Like, it'll get better. Like, I promise. And she's like, no,
Mhm.
like, it's so much better already. And she said, I knew for years that Dad was making us miserable. And I asked her how she knew, and she said, I'd watch you and you would just, try and stay busy, just try to, disconnect, make sure the house was clean and
Mhm.
everything was perfect to try and not set him off. And she said, and I hated when you left. Like, for my job, I would travel a little bit, mostly just like kind of day trips or whatever, but sometimes I would leave early in the morning.
Right.
Anyways, on those mornings when I would leave, there was always a fight between my oldest daughter and my ex. And they were sometimes really volatile, like,
Wow.
just yelling and screaming. And um, then I knew about the fights, but I didn't really think I know how bad they were.
Right.
And she told me about one particular fight where he had I he had chased her into a room, and I can't remember, but they were yelling and screaming. And she said, well, you know what, maybe I'll just commit suicide or kill myself and make you happy. And he told her to go to have fun, basically go ahead with it. And
Wow.
that when she told me that, and I had no idea, and this would have happened probably 4 years prior, and this child had lived with that pain.
All
you
that
know
time.
she never she never said anything. She said she didn't know how. She didn't know what it would look like if Dad found out that she had told me. um
Mhm.
and you just feel like you see that relationship, and it's bad, but I played it off to hormones, or anything. I
Right.
did.
Mhm.
But also, when you're living in a smoke filled house, you're not able to see clearly.
Clear. Oh. Mhm.
And that was a horrible, guilty moment that I had when she told me. And there's been a few others like that by far was probably one of the ones that hurt me the most. That she and I remember that time period, because she was struggling,
Right.
mentally, and I had got her help, but I didn't really know exactly what help to, who to reach out to, because I didn't really
Right.
understand what she was dealing with, right? But then,
Mhm.
now I find out, there was a lot of those fights that they had, that led to this.
Wow. Wow. That's it's just it's sometimes it breaks your heart because you the parent supposed to protect the child. But in
Mhm.
so many ways she was really protecting you. Well, I'm not gonna tell mom because I'm scared this might happen. So they be in certain situations so that they go into survival mode themselves,
Mhm.
dealing with those kind of incidents. So at this point, you're going through all this. At what point did you decide to say, enough is enough, I'm going to leave? And how was that? What was that process? Was that an easy process or it was hard for you to leave?
Ooh, so I decided to leave. What was it? I had found out for sure that he had had an affair.
Wow.
So, and that was my fault. So, that when I kept hearing that in my mind, I was just like, to hell with you. Like, I'm so sick of your bullshit. But then also part of me is like, do I really want to go through a divorce? Am I going to be able to afford it? Is it the best thing for the kids? Because I didn't know a lot of things that the kids have told me now, which leaving was absolutely the best choice. But you have so many things going on in your mind. And also, I knew that when I proceeded to leave, it was going to be a nightmare. Um, I I initially, and of course, I had to do everything legally with
Hmm.
him, because
Yes.
I know that I can't set boundaries. So I needed help, right?
Set those boundaries, correct.
Yeah, I needed that help. Um, and so I actually basically agreed to take very little to nothing when when I was first leaving,
Uh-huh.
because I knew that
Try to
if
fight
I
it.
set him off, yeah, fight him, tried to set him off, I would, I was setting myself up um, for a potential, a fight, like a physical dispute is actually what I was really, really concerned about that.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, he did think that, this was just temporary. And he did keep trying to control me. Even
Mm-hmm.
after I had moved with the kids, he tried to control the kids. And as I kind of pushed farther and farther away, that is really when things actually started to get bad. So at first, he didn't take me seriously that I was gone. I had literally moved, was in a different house hours away, and he didn't take me seriously. It was like, oh, she's just doing
She,
this. Right?
she gonna be back. Mm-hmm.
She's coming back. It'll be just fine. She's gonna fall flat on her face, and she'll be back. And there was um oh God, I got the mind games. Like I saved so many texts where I was like this is unreal,
Right. Mm-hmm.
how the arrogance, the delusion, the everything that he had, like he really thought that he was going to just walk in one day and I would be like, "Oh my gosh, I missed you so much," and things would go right back to normal, right? So
Mm-hmm.
until he realized that, which took months, that is actually when I thought that I was probably in the most danger. It wasn't actually when I first moved. Um, it was when he realized that how done I was and I wasn't messing around anymore. And I had, fired my first lawyer and I had got a higher up one. And
Mm-hmm.
I had
Yeah, the upgrade.
then I had started moving towards, kind of recovering some of the things that I deserved.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and then that's when some of I felt like I was being stalked. There was a couple places where, he lives 3 hours away where I would be and he would just show up. And I was like,
Wow.
how, how is this happening? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, there was definitely a lot of talk with my lawyer and even the local police about, restraining orders and stuff. We
Right.
never
Mm-hmm.
did place one on him, but it was definitely on the radar. And and then there was one text message he sent me where he had threatened to put me in the hospital. Um,
Wow.
that was that time period that he really realized that I wasn't coming back.
What's setting in?
Yeah, and that was when things really got bad. And and that went right to the police and they talked to him and he was yeah, it was pretty bad for quite a while, all the text messages, all the mind games. And even now still, if he has to email me for anything about the kids, there is always, always, always a dig in there, like about how big of a piece of shit I am, how I'm turning, you know, the kids against him. There is
Right.
always that.
Yeah, he's still trying to play the mind games, keeping the
Oh
mind
yeah.
games going. Hmm. So
Yeah.
when so once you left, and you finally just got to this point where, okay, me and the kids are gone. What was your next move in between? Just did y'all ever have to go to custody for the kids, or he just didn't worry about that?
Um, how it's actually set up right now, he won't sign anything legally.
Wow.
So I had actually tried to set up a custody agreement with him that would have allowed, I think it was like every other weekend or 2 weekends a month or something like that.
Hmm.
And very limited time in the summer. I think it was about a week in the summer is what he wanted. And, that was kind of taking into consideration, what the kids were wanting, without giving them, the option to choose at that point in time. I was talking to different counselors, both child and mine, what would be
Mm-hmm.
beneficial for them, because I'd already known some of these things that had
Right.
gone on before, and with input from my lawyer of how it looks like, parenting law is changing, and, dads are recognized to be important. And I do agree there are,
Right.
they are
Mm-hmm.
important. However, if they're toxic, it's a different
It's
story,
not
right?
fun. Mm-hmm.
But since everything had been emotional, and I had never reported any of the things that had happened in our life, um, a lot of my concerns wouldn't really be valid, right? I never
Right.
reported the rape. I never reported, there was one physical altercation that he had with my son. I didn't report a lot of these things.
So that would have been hearsay.
So therefore, it doesn't really exist in the eyes of the
Mm-hmm.
court, right? So I sent that agreement to him, and he wouldn't sign it, which ended up being good, because his girlfriend was introduced. His new girlfriend came into the picture not long after that, and was, fairly inappropriate with the children,
Mm-hmm.
um, right off the bat. So I had got my lawyer to send them a letter saying that this wasn't appropriate, and the next time she saw them, it was actually worse. So with all of that being documented, and him not willing to keep her, out of the picture when he had the kids, it actually made it a little bit easier, for me, legally speaking, to keep the kids,
Right.
away.
Mm-hmm.
And how it is now is, so my son is, he's almost 18. He is, I don't restrict him. If he wants to go, he can go, and he does go a little bit, to visit. But my daughters, I have said no. I will. I refuse to send them, and by all means, he can take me to court if that's what he chooses. And the girls actually, they don't want to go. My littlest found out that he could be kind of around the area, in the next few weeks, and it actually really upset her. She gets quite anxious knowing that he is
Yeah.
in. She still does have concerns that he could hurt us.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Um, she she's only 10, and she had told me that there's been a lot of times where after we left that she thought dad would hurt mom. So it's very much in their minds that that there is that physical threat there. And that's the difference, I think, between, having daughters and sons. I don't like my son, being a little bit older. He doesn't really feel like physical violence is a threat. He's not intimidated by it.
Yeah.
He's not,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whereas the girls are more sensitive. They were,
Very. Mm-hmm.
when and being the oldest, he doesn't really experience a lot of the things, right? Like in the last few years, because he'd be out with his friends doing his own thing. Whereas the
Mm-hmm.
girls
Yeah.
being younger, being home, they, saw more, felt more. They saw their, they saw more of what it did to me,
Mm-hmm.
that type of thing. So yeah, but yeah, as of right now, we don't actually have a custody agreement, but I have them all the time. So yeah, and
Good.
he has
They're in a
not.
better place anyway, they're in a
Yeah,
much better place than being in that toxic situation with him and the girlfriend too. That wouldn't have been good for the girls at all. So
no.
as of now, when you left the relationship, did you seek any kind of counseling?
Yes, I
Yeah.
did. Um,
So you
actually,
and the kids are just
me at first, I really needed to straighten me out, I think, before and then my oldest daughter started, not long after that. And then now my littlest one is in there. My middle girl does not want to go to counseling yet. Um, but also she's a really good close group of friends where I think that she talks a lot with them. And so I think
but
she could
just
make a
sharing.
difference. And they're really supportive of her, and I keep offering it to her, but I'm not gonna, force her into it. It won't be successful if I do
Because she's
that.
forced. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Whereas if
so
the other girls, they're willing to go.
yeah, they are willing to go. And yeah, so for me at first, before I actually left, I had started working with a healer, I'll call her. I don't really know what her title is, but I had heard that she could, because I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia with all of that pain I was having.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into her to start working with her on that. And, it was coming out that, a lot of the feelings of, or a lot of the connections of the pain of the fibromyalgia was connected to feelings of being, unwanted and, suppressing my emotions and all that type of stuff. So I actually had started counseling, working with her on different things, but I didn't really, even at that point, I didn't really realize or open up to how bad it was. Like it was very surface level type of very, very small kind of counseling. Like it helped me open my eyes a bit, but and it did definitely help me make me stronger to leave when I did. But I think I worked with her for about a year. And then when I left, I had started working with a domestic violence counselor quite regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a godsend, and I highly recommend people to, reach out to their local, anything local. And there's so many wonderful resources out there.
Yeah.
And it was really actually kind of, at first I felt, embarrassed, to be,
Right. To judge.
speaking to
People are
someone.
judge.
And yeah, yeah. And then once I started opening up, it was like, well, this has happened, this has happened, this has happened. And then, when you start putting all of those things together, it's like, that's a lot of stuff to deal with. So
Right.
I don't talk to her as much anymore. I do text her on occasion, if I'm having, a bad day, or if something happens with him again and it's kind of, upsetting me, or even sometimes I just don't know what to say to the kids. I don't know
Right.
what the right answer is. I'll shoot her a text, and, she'll kind of help me through that. It That's probably what I use her for the most right now, is just like, how do I deal with this situation, right? Like,
Right. With the kids, and especially as they get older.
yeah, yeah, I don't want
So,
to, still their dad. I don't
right.
want to say the wrong thing. And
Or badmouth them because it's
yeah,
really not worth it.
no, yeah, yeah, they'll find out.
And they probably know already, so it's not worth it. We have to put them in a good predicament to let them know that everything's gonna be all right, and this is not what a healthy relationship look like. So, Danny today, what does Danny today look like from going through all of that, and today, what does she look like as a person?
Compared to what I used to be.
Yes.
Oh, it wasn't long after they told me that I seemed a lot more, a lot happier, more relaxed. The other day they told me that I used to yell quite a bit, I guess, which it doesn't really surprise me. I think I would probably, that was my outlet, right? Like I would
Right.
yell, and that doesn't happen anymore. They definitely feel like they can, approach me easier, tell me about anything, which is awesome. Like I feel like I know a lot about what's happening in my kids' lives, which is great because
Right.
I didn't know that before. Um, I think that they've noticed, just how I'm stronger, how I'm just, I'm kinder. I'm back to that, person that I guess they would have never known me as, before children. But, I used to be really kind and caring, and I think that they're seeing a lot more of that, a lot more fun, laughing more, that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of good improvements there, looking after myself in general a bit more, my mental health, my physical health, really been trying to get into a better place. Hmm.
Which is good. So what you as of now, what are you working on now as far as putting you back in a good place, or do you have any projects or anything that you have coming up that you're working
Uh,
on?
yeah, yeah. So for me right now, I actually find that, my physical health is probably my, it helps me mentally the most, right? So I am very much into looking after, watching what I eat, I work out all the time, that type of stuff. I've really been focusing on that. Along with that, I am currently working on kind of a program to help women like me.
Yeah.
I want to help them, I don't want to take away from counselors because I can't, but
Yeah.
also because there is such a gap between the time that you see your counseling sessions. And there's a lot of things that I did in that time that I think really helped me get to the place I am today. And I really would love to reach out and help women um, get to a better place and realize that they're worth so much more than what they are, what they're living through, even recognizing what just speaking about domestic violence. I know people think of domestic violence and think that they have to be black and blue for it to be actual violence, and it's not. There's so much of that
Yes.
emotional stuff that is just it lingers forever, and I really want to speak out and raise awareness about what that looks like. um, so I have my blog going on, and yeah, so I'm just raising awareness, and actually a lot of in raising awareness is actually really therapeutic for me because I stayed quiet for so long. I never spoke out about all these things, and I'm done with that. It's time to be a stronger person. If I can help one woman, then I think that I've done my job. I just don't want anyone to go through something like that again. Or and my children, I don't want them to live through an unhappy life like that. I want to set an example of being a strong woman, and I think I am. I think we're getting there, but
Slowly but surely. It takes
slowly.
time.
Yep.
And the best thing is just putting that extra effort into making those steps instead of just staying stagnant. Because sometimes we could stay stagnant because the trauma of the abuse is so big to where we don't know what to do. But you made the step to say, okay, I'm gonna get help and I'm gonna help the next lady that's going through this because we have a lot of ladies that's going through domestic violence, and especially since the pandemic. So it's good to break that silence. Tell your story. Don't hold it in because you just never know how your story may affect someone else to even get out of that abusive situation. So
Yeah.
it's important.
Yeah, and I really find that since I left, there's so many people that didn't think of him as that person or didn't see him that. So, you know, I really think that a lot of people in general won't even hardly recognize domestic violence because it is not, you're not in cast, you're not in a body, you're not beaten up. Um, there's a lot of people that just refuse to see it, they refuse to believe it. I think it upsets and triggers a lot of people. So yeah, I just really am passionate about speaking up and
And
raising
breaking that
awareness.
silence. Yeah, breaking that silence because we have so many women that just silent about it. Let's talk about it. Be open. Let that go because that stops the healing part. And we have to heal.
Hmm.
So, is there any triggers that you notice, like that'll trigger you off to think back, or you haven't really noticed what the triggers are for you?
Yeah, I have a few, and sometimes they're kind of few and far between. For a while, actually, the weirdest thing is when my phone would go off. I was expecting, a threatening message for a long time. That was actually a trigger for a very long time. And I can't shut that off, with my kids and that type of stuff. So I actually did block him for a good period of time. He was unable to reach me unless it was through an email, just to help with that trigger. Um, Different times where I've been, if I've gone out. Um, I've always expected, that was always a trigger for him. Like I would always do something wrong, right? Or someone
Hmm.
would talk to me and so I was actually really scared to go out with a group of people. I was kind of fearful that I was do something wrong, right? Like,
Right. Hmm.
so, that was definitely a trigger. Different times of being alone in certain places would definitely send me into a panic. Sometimes I just wake up in the night and I would be sweating, I would be crying, I would um, yeah, just nightmares. And actually I would say that's probably one of the biggest ones is the nightmares. I wasn't able to sleep for quite a while, but I've definitely worked through all of that, and I find them to be a bit less. I
Right.
got into the habit of actually, writing down what, what it was or what I was feeling, what I was doing, what I was, thinking. And that helped to, kind of recognize it. And I think I'm, avoiding a lot of those situations a bit more than, or even what I was watching before I went to bed. There's certain shows that I can't watch anymore because,
It'll
you know,
trigger.
yeah, it'll trigger me. So, and a lot of those crime shows, there's certain ones that they just hit too close to home and I can't watch, which, yeah, it's too bad because and sometimes I kind of like them, but
Right. But it's kind of just you want to stay far from those trigger moments to bring them back,
absolutely.
especially after we don't put them, dial them down. We don't need to relive them and keep reliving the same thing. So as of now, are you dating? Are you looking to date, or it's just not at you just not at a point right now to start dating?
No, I am dating. It kind of happened a little actually faster than I ever really thought I would, and bless his heart, I think I pushed him away for a lot of times because I was like, no, not ready. Like I've got so much shit going on, it's
Right.
just you don't want to be involved with this
You don't want
and
this.
and he kept coming back and actually it's been really good. I
Good.
he very much accepts my healing process. Like there's been so many times where I have been, there a few times where I can think of where I was literally sitting on the floor of my kitchen in tears. And it would have been when my kids still went with my ex. So lots of times when they went with him, my daughters would be texting me like, "Can you come pick us up? Like, I'm scared of this. I'm scared of this." Well, I can't just show up there, right? I'm gonna make it worse, right? My
Yeah.
presence. So trying to
Hmm.
talk through that, and then quite often he would end up sending me threatening messages, right? So there'd be lots of times where I'd be sitting on my kitchen floor in tears, like hysterical, like I have no idea what to do. I don't know if my kids are safe. And there'd be times where he would walk in as you're supposed to be going somewhere, right? And he would see me there and he would say nothing. He would just come, put his arms around me and let me cry it out. Um, and he gave me I was able to talk about it. We would maybe come to a conclusion of, do I phone a crisis line or do I phone, something like that, just to try and, get someone in contact with the kids who's not me.
All
So
right.
he's been a really great support system in that way. And that wasn't something that I've ever had was, when I wasn't ever allowed to break down before.
I'll be
And
sad. Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't ever okay. And I've never just had like a safe place to show my emotions. And it was pretty scary at first. Like I expected him just to be like, no, I'm done. But no, he never
And
did. And he
how
never
does
said
that make you
anything, never
feel?
judged me. What's that?
How does that make you feel?
Actually, pretty wonderful. I haven't ever had that, and I've just always wanted that safe place where I can
Right.
just be me, right? Like I've just always craved that. And so like I feel pretty special. I feel pretty lucky that I have someone who is going to listen to me, is gonna,
Good. Hmm.
listen to my fears, let me heal, give me space or be there. Um,
And get
He's
through that pain with you.
yes, yeah, yeah, and it's been really good for me, yeah,
That's
and
good. That's
I'm glad
good.
to have, yeah.
We need that, and you have that. I can be me, and I can
Yeah,
cry if I need to, and I won't be judged, or I won't made feel a certain kind of way.
yeah, and I'm so glad he's patient because being in a relationship like I was in for so many years, um, you are so used to the
Being down.
toxic bullshit,
Mm-hmm.
and there is also times that I find like you get so used to it, it almost I thought it was weird that I didn't have it.
Thought it was
Um,
something normal.
yeah, but it's normal, right? Right? So, um, and he was strong enough to be able to, talk to me about those things and, uh, work through those and just, even make me realize or, say something just like what's going on with you? This isn't you, right? And, gave me the time to take a step back and look at what I was doing. And 9 times out of 10, I am probably just starting something because I am not used to not having a toxic relationship, right? Um, and so and lots of times I would call my counselor or whatever, and I'd be like, this is what I'm doing. Like, I know I did it. I know that I started this fight. I know I started to pick at him about this, and yeah. And so we talked a lot about, trauma bonds, how to break them.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if that's something you've heard of, but
No, I haven't.
it's very interesting. It's basically why women don't leave or have troubles leaving toxic situations. And when they do, they get back into another toxic relationship right away, is because your brain starts to crave the toxicity. It starts to think that it's normal.
Wow.
And so when it isn't in your life, you begin to create it. And and so when I spent a lot of time learning about those
Hmm.
and becoming aware of it, that was actually really, really, really when I think I started to notice a lot of the healing. Just being aware of a lot of my actions, things I was doing. Um, that was when I started to see a lot of progress and a lot calmer and a lot of things. So yeah,
And what are they called? Toxic bind?
trauma bonds.
Trauma bond. Okay. I
Yeah,
never heard of
Google
that.
it.
That's
Super
yeah.
interesting.
So I'm so happy that you was able to share your story and just be open to share with other women. So before we close out, do you have anything that a word or anything that you have that you want to share with a lady that may be in a situation and watching your story, or she's out of that situation and she's looking for the next step on what need to do? Do you have something that you want to share with them?
Well, in both cases, if you are just out or you're wanting to leave, please reach out to professionals. Make sure you're safe. Have a plan. Make sure you have people there to help you. And there are so many wonderful people out there. Reach out to someone who is close to you or has been through it. Um, Please don't be silent. That is the worst thing that you can do. The less we talk, the more that it's going to happen. And I just, ladies, you are strong enough. You are strong enough to leave. You will be able to get through it. Um, just, just don't wait. It'll never get better. You know that. Believe in yourself. Really trust your gut, and you can do it.
And that's it. Thank you so much, Dani, for allowing me to give you the platform to share your story with everyone and let everyone know where they can find you on Instagram.
You can find me at Take Your Fucking Power Back.
I like that. I seen you change the name and I was like, I like that. I like that. And not only that, take your power back and your voice. Like, we need to talk. This our
Yeah.
voice. We need to share our story. We need to talk. Don't no more silence. That's basically what it is. We're not holding that silence in no more. So I want to say personally, thank you for allowing me to share your story, and thank you for trusting me with that, because it's not everybody have that trust, and we have to. My biggest thing is, that's why I come up with give a sister a hug, because we have to support one another and meet each other where we at, and no judgment, because we, as women that dealing with domestic violence, they already being so judged. So I want to create this space where there's no judge, because we all have been down the road before. So I want to say thank you for being a part of the journey back from domestic violence, and you can always reach out to me, and if you want to do something, just let me know. I have another friend. She's Quality Day Foundation. She has a domestic violence. So maybe you might be in the Dallas area, and y'all could probably link up. So I just want to say thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's great first experience.
No problem. So thanks for tuning in to give us a sister. Give us sister her. Thanks for tuning in to Journey Back from Domestic Violence. I'm your girl, Author Erica, and I have my friend Dani here with me. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope y'all enjoy.